Hello and welcome to Rice YouTube channel. My name is Yavuz Shah, and in today's editorial explain session, we are going to talk about or discuss about this article titled Sustaining India's Low Fertility Future. I would like to give you a small disclaimer before we start discussion or somewhere get an idea about the article. You can get a better idea of this article once you have seen the previous videos related to this low fertility rate. Here at Rice IAS, we have also covered earlier this low fertility rate idea holistically so that it somewhere now complements you as a foundational base upon which today's article can be better understood by those who are in search of better lucid terms. Okay, once done, let's see the first idea where this article is going to help me. This article is somewhere going to help me in GS-1 society. Also, in you can relate the examples to GS2 social justice or economy also. But keeping in mind that this is core or is more going to help me this article in society, let's see a question based on that, a model question for mains. India has entered a low fertility era. Examine the socio-economic and governance challenges associated with population aging and suggest policy measures for ensuring a sustainable demographic transition. 15 marks. I would make sure that this question which I have read now, if ever appeared in mains question or any question like this on a similar context appears in your mains paper, you will be well equipped to handle that question. Okay. Now jumping onto the topic directly. First, we would see why the news in context. It is in context because India's TFR, total fertility rate, has somewhere fallen to 1.9%. It is way below the replacement rate of 2.1%, making it the beginning of low fertility era. And the second is India's demographic challenge is shifting from population growth to population aging. And why we are somewhere pointing it as, and why the article has somewhere pointed it as a demographic challenge, we will see in a short while now. See that in a short while. Before getting into the core idea or the core understanding or the answer writing format idea body, let's see what are the key demographic trend, particularly in India, categorically. The first TFR, that is at, we have already discussed, it is at 1.9, way below the replacement level of 2.1. And if we see the particular data of urban fertility, it is again way below than the national rate, that is 1.5, in comparison to rural fertility, which is on and around approximately 2.1. The next is India's fertility rate is now below the global average also. The global average is around 2.2, but its fertility rate, which is 1.9, it is way below than global rate also. Now, once we have seen the key demographic dividend, let's categorically see which states are having particularly low fertility ratio and which states are having a high fertility ratio. And yes, I have used multiple states under multiple heading, like under low fertility rate I have given multiple states and somewhere try to give the reason behind it so that you can use those examples and make use of them whenever any such question is been asked or you find that example more relevant. The first in the low fertility states would be the case of Delhi, where we get to see the reason of this low fertility rate is somewhere linked to high living cost and urban lifestyle, which has again reduced the family size, the idea of reduction in family size. The next is somewhere taking idea from Kerala. We get to see there is also a lower fertility rate because of female literacy. It is, they are pointing out to female, the article is pointing out to female literacy and healthcare advancement. That has driven the fertility decline. In case of Tamil Nadu, we get to see the reason is population stabilization, and women are somewhere empowered, and they feel and they are contributing to lower fertility or lower birth rate. And last example would be our own West Bengal. Here the case is for urbanization and preference for smaller families, which has somewhere pushed or somewhere has promoted the idea of lower fertility. Now, once we have seen 4 5 examples of states who are actually behind the replacement rate, let's see who states who have high fertility rate and what are the reasons behind them. One of the reasons, the first would be case of Bihar. There we get to see poverty, early marriage, and somewhere low education of female, somewhere sustaining the high fertility. In case of education, it is completely opposite of Kerala. In case of Uttar Pradesh, we get to see rural dominance and socio-cultural factors somewhere contribute to multiple children, contributing to higher fertility rate. In case of Madhya Pradesh also, we get to see because of lower educational attainment continues to support the higher fertility levels. And in case of Rajasthan, we get to see again social norms or traditional norms of like early marriage somewhere has pushed the fertility above the replacement rate. Now, once we have categorically seen which states are falling behind, are way ahead of or at par with the fertility rate, replacement rate, we see what are the key inference of this data. So one thing is pretty much clear, that is India is witnessing somewhere an uneven demographic dividend in this case, because we have seen in multiple cases we are unable to match the replacement rate in one side, or at the other side in case of Uttar Pradesh, Northern Belt, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, we see, especially in case of Rajasthan, we see the fertility rate is way above the replacement rate. Now, this is somewhere I was speaking uneven demographic transition, with some state aging rapidly while the others remain youthful. The same idea. Now, let's understand under the key inference only, let's understand the India's demographic transition. The first would be the falling fertility rates are somewhere leading to lower births or fewer births, and which will eventually show up to smaller family in size. The next would be the improved healthcare and nutritional aspect also, which will again increase the expectancy and reduce mortality of the children. The population growth is slowing as birth decline somewhere as the population growth is slowing as birth decline faster than the death. So again, the transition is not swift. Next is India is gradually transitioning from youth society to a aging society. Again, keep in mind this is a challenge. We will categorically see why this is a challenge. I have again pointed out. I have first pointed out in the context part. Again, I'm pointing out in the key inference part. The next is elderly population. Again, when we are saying that we are way below the replacement rate, somewhere the elderly population is projected to rise from 150 million to it's merely double, more than double to 247 million by 2050. And by 2050, one of the 5 Indians will be above 60 years of age. That can also become a problem for India, but we will also see what are the solution we can conclude from that, because we are future bureaucrat aspirants. We must have solution centric mind. Okay, now categorically moving into challenges of India's low fertility future. The first would be the aging before becoming rich. This was the point I was speaking all along. India is aging way before achieving the widespread prosperity and social security. A rising dependency ratio could somewhere increase the pension and welfare burden on the government and as well as on the appropriate authorities. The second would be the weak social security architecture, where a largely informal workspace somewhere will limit the effectiveness and contributory pension system, where we would not see a huge place of somewhere who is contributing to that corpus fund, which will somewhere pay off in the pension scheme, which will be paying off the pension scheme. Existing pension scheme provide inadequate income security for the elderly. That is also a concern. This pool is not adequately equipped to handle so much pressure even now. The next is erosion of traditional family support. Because of those, one idea is TFR is falling down. The other idea is falling of TFR is somewhere leading to erosion of family support, or it can be concluded that because of erosion of traditional family support, there we get to see in multiple cases TFR in place, replacement of TFR or reduction in TFR. Because of urbanization, migration, somewhere weakening the joint family based elder care. Again, elderly citizens are increasing, facing some depressional aspect like loneliness, isolation, and caregiving deficit. The next would be the growing healthcare burden, also the economic aspect, where aging is increasing the prevalence of chronic and geriatric diseases. India somewhere lacks the adequate healthcare infrastructure and specializations or specialists to handle this kind of situation. And not to be less pointing out, this will again raise a fiscal pressure on the government, because population aging will again require greater spending on pension and healthcare, which will somewhere limit the fiscal capacity and may constrain the government response to it. Because again, the pool, the age which will contribute to that pool is somewhere getting low or decreasing, and pool and the group which will draw their salaries or pension from that is constantly increasing. And we get to see, we have already seen, there is interstate demographic imbalance also, where aging states will increasingly depend on workers from the younger states like, remember, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. And poor skilling at this stage will again somewhere affect us adversely, because it may trap the migrant worker in low wage informal employment only. Now, once we have seen the challenges, let's see the opportunities which are emerging from this demographic transition. Then we will categorically see the solution which can be put forward by a bureaucrat to address this kind of challenges. The first would be the demographic dividend in younger states. Bihar and Uttar Pradesh possess a large future labor reserve. Therefore, the skilled youth can sustain economic growth and offset aging somewhere or somewhere else. The next would be the internal migration as a growth engine, as we were speaking of, within the country, where we get to see there is more replacement rate. The workers or the laborers can move to those areas which have deficit in place, so as to make the system balanced. Labor mobility can reduce the regional disparity and labor shortages. Welfare portability can make the migration more productive and inclusive. And the last, not the least, would be the silver economy in place. The aging population will again create demand on healthcare, insurance, and elderly services also. Therefore, silver economy can emerge as a major source of growth and employment in near future, to somewhere accumulate those population which are having burst. It will accommodate those population into the system and give them a place to earn, a place to grow, so as to again fund those pools from which the pension will be drawn from. Now, once we have seen the opportunities, now let's categorically draw the way forwards in place. The first way forward would be having a universal minimum pension floor, which this article and the remember the earlier article which I was speaking of was categorically asking for. Introduce inflation index social pension to ensure basic income security, and again reduced old age poverty and dependency through universal pension support. The next would be strengthen the pension ecosystem in place. How? Through expanding pension coverage among the informal workers who are not yet under the ambit of this kind of pension schemes, and develop a flexible pension product which are suited to irregular income holders who don't have a fixed income in place. Then build a geriatric healthcare system to somewhere support the or strengthen the elderly healthcare infrastructure and long-term care facility, and integrate geriatric care into the existing public health program so as to get a holistic coverage of all these schemes and even this scheme. Next is invest in human capital. Again, improve the education, nutrition and skill development among youth, because youth of these states will somewhere again support the elderlies. Therefore, we should have maximum ripple effect from them. Therefore, invest in their capital in form of human capital. Promote women empowerment to enhance the workforce capacity. Keep in or channelize the 50% approx 15% workforce available to India in form of female workforce. Create portable welfare architecture. Same idea which was again somewhere coined by the previous article. This article is also somewhere pointing out to the same thing, where we have said the opportunity in case of mobility of labor from younger states to the aging states. Also ensure that the health system or facilities can be availed by those laborers or workers who are somewhere migrating. Ensure migrant worker retain access of welfare benefit across the states all over the India. Strengthen one nation one ration card so as to they get the ration system in place, or e-shram for seamless labor mobility. And the last would be the promote active and healthy aging. It is very much important somewhere to make the older elderly people more comfortable while they are aging. Encourage lifelong learning and senior citizen employment. Like case of Japan, we can expand or somewhere increase the age of retirement from 60 to 65 in near future, and foster community participation to improve elderly well-being, whereas somewhere getting back to our roots or somewhere again inculcating those values of inculcating those traditional values again in the society. With this, now we will move on to the conclusion part, which will again somewhere portray the same idea of the body. The first would be India's low fertility future will be sustained only and only if it combines strong social security, healthy aging, skilled migration, and productive labor force participation. Keeping all these points which we have mentioned in the way forward also and in the conclusion also, we can ensure that we somewhere have 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 healthy aging in place, and somewhere make assure that the transition is swift for India. With this, I would conclude today's session. I hope again that this session was indeed helpful for your preparation, like every day it does. If it helped you in your preparation, I would like you to like this channel or like this video and subscribe to RiceEye's YouTube channel. And yes, again, I would repeat, those who are wondering among you from where we can get the detailed PDF of this content, the detailed PDF is available absolutely in free terms in RiceEye's website. I would again thank you all, and I hope that you are preparing well.